Okay, hello everybody. I'm doing something a little bit different today. I haven't done one of these in a while. Some of my earliest stuff was personality quizzes and things for, vampires and Walking Dead and stuff like that. This one is on the Modern Mrs. Darcy website, modernmrsdarcy.com, and it is, what's your reading personality? I'm getting ready to sign up for a reading challenge, and they're basing it on your result from the quiz. So, since I was doing the quiz anyway, and it's reading related, what the heck? Let's do this as a video. Might be kind of fun. So, take quiz. If I had to choose, my favorite place to read is on the sofa, curled up with a good drink and my book, by the pool, or anywhere I can lounge and relax. In bed because it helps me unwind at the end of the day. In a library or coffee shop with the hum of conversation nearby. Someplace I can concentrate with a pen in hand. I don't care where I am as long as I'm reading. With a lot of stuff going on, like in a library or coffee shop, it does get distracting for me. So probably not there. Don't have a pool. Be nice if the pictures would load. I actually don't have a sofa, but I do tend to, sit in my bed and read, with the pillows piled up behind me, and it doesn't matter what time of day, it's pretty much any time. But really, I don't care as long as I have my book. So I think I'm going to pick that. I don't care as long as I'm reading. I mean, I did read at a bar once, so it was at a convention in Minneapolis for the Sigma Tau Delta English Honor Society, and Neil Gaiman was the keynote speaker, and after he did his speech, he was staying to sign books. And he didn't care how many books you brought up, he'd sign whatever you brought him, which was great, except that the line was so long. And he started signing around 9 p.m. It was after midnight by the time we got up there. But while we were waiting, we were hanging out in the bar. So I had my book in one hand, I had a drink in the other. And my friends were at the table, they were all laughing at me. I said, "What? I'm just being a good English major." And we'd go and every so often check to see how the line was. And, yeah, it was pretty cool. I was good. I only had one drink that night. And Neil Gaiman was super, super, super nice. And I'll have to find my book. I had the Graveyard Book, which is his, I guess it's his YA. Is it YA or is it middle grade? I'm not entirely sure. It could kind of go either way. I'm leaning more towards YA because there's murder and blood and guts. And of course, as soon as I start talking, my nose starts running. Great. Anyway, it's the one that won the Newbery, and it was right after it won, so it was kind of exciting. That's why I picked it up in the first place, actually. And I was familiar with the Sandman comics, and I really liked those. But when he signed it, he drew a picture, and he did that for everybody, everything that they brought to be signed. So, I mean, it was just amazing. He drew a little tombstone in mine and signed it. He's really fun to talk to online. I've come across him a couple different times where he was doing stuff, and we just kind of, a group of people just kind of hanging out. It was fun. He's a really nice guy. A little bit shy, I think. Or at least that's the impression I got from him when we talked a little bit, when I met him. But highly recommend meeting him. He's a really nice guy. And I've seen him post where he's been in like airports and things, and he'll step into the shop, and if he finds copies of his books, he'll sign them. Kind of sneak in and sign books for people. It's kind of cool. Okay, second question. I'm doing tangents. Oh no. I watch a YouTuber named Simon Whistler who does a bunch of different channels. A ton of different channels. Every time you turn around, he's opening a new channel. One of them's called Brain Blaze, and he always goes off in these crazy tangents like I'm doing right now. And They used to call him Fact Boy because he does all these like true story kind of things, or 10 top 10 facts and that kind of stuff. So they used to call him Fact Boy. Now they call him Tangent Boy because he's always going off on tangents. So is that making me Tangent Girl? Because I'm doing that too. Okay, question 2. I love to talk about what I'm reading with no one, really. I'm in it for the reading, not the discussing. A bookish friend or two, people I know and trust. My discussion group, they always see things in the text I didn't. My book club, our discussions are so much fun. My private journal, I record things I want to remember. Anyone who will listen. Well, I don't have a discussion group or a book club. I don't keep a journal, although I probably should. Bookish friend or two. I don't know that I really have anybody that I talk about books with. Other than here on YouTube, I might discuss a book. Or I might, in passing, say, hey, this was really great. Occasionally I'll post on Facebook, hey, I just finished this book. It was fantastic. Everybody should read it. That kind of a thing. But I'm really in it more for the reading than the discussing. That probably just took me out of the one result I thought I might get. I love to read because sometimes I need a break from my real life. I love how a good book connects me to my fellow readers. It's so satisfying to read great works that have endured for decades, or better yet, centuries. I enjoy staying up to date on what's happening in publishing. A book is a powerful way to experience the world from someone else's point of view. It's something I can do for me because I love to, not because I have to. I do it for me. Me. I add books to my to-be-read list because... What TBR list? I hate to plan my reading in advance. I heard about it on the radio or on a podcast. I saw a post on Instagram. I resonate with the topic. I feel like there are certain books everyone should read in their lifetime. I saw it on the staff picks shelf at my local bookstore. Okay, so my TBR list on Goodreads is so long. It's several thousand books. Like 3,000 or 4,000, something like that. It's a long one. Because whenever I see a book that sounds interesting, I'll add it on there as kind of a way to keep it in mind. But it's not necessarily for planning my reading in advance. I don't do that. I'm a mood reader. Absolutely a mood reader. If I am doing a reading challenge, which I'm always doing some sort of reading challenge through Goodreads, various groups. Like I said, I'm doing this quiz because of a reading challenge. I'll pick a book based on a task to complete. But I don't really plan, I'm going to read this stack of books this month. I can't do that. About the time I say I'm going to do that, I'm like, nope, don't want to read that. Nope, not going to do it. Not going to read that. Going to read all these other books instead. I'm going to go to the library and pick out a different stack of books because I don't want to read what I've got. Not going to plan it. So very rarely do I plan in advance. That being said, I do have one challenge I'm working on. It's just like a 6-month challenge where we had to list 60 books we want to read during that 6 months. And as we read them, we mark them off. But it's not saying I have to read, let's see, one of them is The Tempest by Shakespeare. Nowhere did I put on there, I'm going to read this book in March. Or I'm going to read Hamlet in May. Or anything like that. No. I'm like, okay, this is a stack of books I do want to get through this year. And if I do it in the first 6 months of the year, that's great. If not, oh well, I'll read them sometime. It's not going to kill me if I don't read it, Heard about it on the radio or on a podcast. I don't listen to podcasts, technically. I do watch a couple things on YouTube that they say are podcasts, so I guess you can get them as a podcast, but I don't listen to them as a podcast. I watch them as a video. So there's, potato, I guess. The radio stations I listen to don't talk about books. So I'll post on Instagram. Sometimes I will see a book on Instagram and I will add it to my Goodreads list, but that doesn't mean I'm going to run out and read it right that second. I do post books that I really like on Instagram sometimes, although my phone is being completely stupid and telling me I have no space, and I have to clear space, and to do that I have to delete apps, so I ended up taking Instagram off for now, because I have a couple other apps that I use every single day for specific reasons, and I can't afford to get rid of them right now. It's kind of a pain in the butt. I hate my phone. I need a different one, really. One that's not going to fight with me every day over every little thing I want to do. Add books because I resonate with the topic. Well, if I don't like what it's about, I'm not going to read it, so I wouldn't add it to my TBR. Duh. I feel like there are certain books everyone should read in their lifetime. This is true. I do feel that way. But that's not necessarily why I put it on my list. I saw it on the staff pick shelf at my local bookstore. Don't have a local bookstore. I have a library. I have a library actually in town. And then the main library, which is like 2 towns over. Not that far, though. I mean, it's a maybe 20-minute drive, because you got to crawl through the one town, because if you go over the speed limit, they will nail your butt. How do I know this? Because they caught me once. They caught me. This pisses me off. They caught me, and they claimed I was doing 45 in a 35 mile an hour zone. I was speeding, but I wasn't going 45, I was only going 40. But they couldn't write me a ticket for 40. They could write me a ticket for 45. So they waited until I passed the speed limit sign that said 45 and went up to 45 to then pull me over. And I'm like, dude, I just passed the sign that said it was 45 miles an hour. They didn't care. They just wanted money. So I figure I paid for my portion of the pool that summer. And I don't even live in that town. I don't use the tool. So, great. Got nailed anyway. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. So I guess I'm going to say because I resonate with the topic. So if I'm not interested in it, I'm not going to add it. When I'm deciding what to read next, I always stop to consider if a friend has already read it and vouched for it, what the cover looks like. They say you're not supposed to judge, but who are they kidding? It's placed on the New York Times bestseller list. What Oprah thinks. Who cares what Oprah thinks? If I've read anything else by the author before. What kind of difference this book could make in how I live my life. If I'm excited about the subject matter. If I'm excited about it. I'm not going to read it if I'm not interested, When I read, I underline my favorite passages. I want to remember the beautiful writing. Write in the margins. I love to interact with the material. Make notes in a separate journal. Highlight in my e-reader. Save my favorite quotes to Evernote. What's Evernote? Never heard of it. I'd rather enjoy the reading experience than take notes. The bulk of what I'm reading currently is not stuff I'd be taking notes on. Of course, that said, I did read an ebook, which is very rare for me. Hold on a second. I need a tissue. Anyway, I read an ebook. It was a classic, translated from the French. And there were a couple quotes I really, really liked. and I did highlight there. But mostly I use the highlight function as a bookmark. So if I didn't finish the page but found a good place to stop, I would highlight like the first word of the paragraph where I needed to start back up. But generally I don't read ebooks very often. I might read maybe one or two a year. This was the only way I could find it easily was as an ebook. So anyway, when I have the choice, I prefer to read old-fashioned paper books on an e-reader, a healthy mix of both, whatever I can get my hands on. Paper books. What about audiobooks? I love audiobooks. Actually, the bulk of what I do is audio, but I like to get a paper copy, a print copy, and read it along with what I'm listening to. I think it helps me, pay more attention. Excuse me. I hope you don't hear my ceiling fan. It's been squeaking something fierce. Hopefully that'll help. I've got allergies and the weather's gone bonkers and all the flowers are blooming, so I'm just like, eh. At the literary cocktail party of my dreams, I would bump into Malcolm Gladwell, Tom Rath, and Dan Pink. Okay, I've read one thing by Malcolm Gladwell that I know of. I don't recognize the other two names. Brene Brown, Elizabeth Gilbert, or Amy Cuddy. I've heard of Brene Brown. I've read one Elizabeth Gilbert. She's one that did Eat, Pray, Love, yeah? I don't know who Amy Cuddy is. Jane Austen, the Bronte sisters, and Louisa May Alcott. Love Jane Austen. I prefer Anne Bronte out of the three, because what I've read so far, she's the one I've liked the most. Hate's a strong word. I disliked Jane Eyre, and I disliked Wuthering Heights. So, being that I did like Agnes Grey and was okay with Tenant of Wildfell Hall, I thought it was a little bit too long. If it would have been narrowed down just a little bit, I would have liked it more. And they're both by Anne. She's the only one I've liked so far, so we'll see. I do have a couple others on my generalized list that eventually I'll get to, because I am working very slowly on the 1001 books to read and read before you die. Is that how it's phrased? Which is now up to like 1,300 books, because every year they take a few off and add a few on. It's frustrating. My favorite college professor, Mortimer Adler and Susan Wise Bauer. Okay, 3 of my college professors did have things published. And I actually own a copy of the poetry book that one of them published, and I guess you would say literary criticism that the other one published. And the third one, I don't know the name of the book to try to track it down, but I want to say it was a fantasy novel, possibly. But I know he also did some work with poetry and publishes a poetry magazine, or did. I'm assuming they still do. Unfortunately, the one professor has passed. I loved her to death. She was awesome. Her name is Joanne Ford, and her book was called Eros Operatica. And then the one that did the literary criticism, her name is Heather Duda, D-U-D-A, and I cannot think off the top of my head the name of her book, but it had to do with like horror movies and horror literature, and she was more mixed media than just straight lit, so she did talk a lot about things like movies, and she talked about anime and graphic novels and all that kind of stuff, so that was pretty cool. So I'd hang out with them again. I don't know who Mortimer Adler or Susan Wise Bauer are. So, I don't know. All the authors I hear on NPR may be the judges for the Man Booker Prize. I don't really follow that. The author whose memoir changed my life so I can tell them what it meant to me. You know what? I'm going to hang out with Jane Austen, the Brontes, and Louisa May Alcott. I do like some of the classics. I mean, and Jane Austen is a favorite. The sign of a great book is it teaches me something I didn't already know. It changed the way I see the world or the way I view an important topic. I didn't want to eat, sleep, or do anything else before I finished it. Couldn't stop talking about it. I discover something new in the text every time I reread it. I can't stop thinking about it afterwards. I keep circling back to its plot or ideas. Kind of a combination of all of them, really. If it's teaching you something you didn't know, if it's changing the way you see the world, if you're discovering something new, if you can't stop thinking about it or talking about it, and you didn't want to do anything else but finish it, I'd say all of those are some combination. I mean, they don't give you all of the above. I don't know. We've already established I don't really talk about books that much, like specific to people. I do read some nonfiction, but not enough to really say that it teaches me something I didn't already know. Maybe a historical fiction might, be accurate on certain historical moments, and I'll be like, I didn't know about that, and I'll look it up to verify sometimes, but generally I would say if I didn't want to, well, I guess that's what I'm choosing because it chose for me. If I didn't want to do anything else but read it, that's probably my main one. My other one is I can't stop thinking about it. Because I can tell you right now, 2 in particular. And they're both by the same author. And thanks to Ashley at Bookish Realm, I found out about them. The one was on the Newbery list as well. And they're both by Jason Reynolds. And they're both basically poetry. The one is like 3 sentences, but spread out over like 300 pages. And the artwork in it is as important as the words. And I absolutely think everybody needs to at least go through it once. It's called Ain't Burned All the Bright, I think. Something like that. I don't have my own copy. I borrowed it from the library. Eventually I'm going to have my own copy of it because it's just so amazing. It talks about like Black Lives Matter, and it talks about COVID. It's all about like 2020 without hitting you in the head with it. It's not like, but you know what they're talking about. The father is ill and you can't go in there because he's sick. You got to distance, and on TV it's the same thing every day where somebody's getting killed and blah 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 blah. But the way it's structured and the way it's worded, yes, it's only 3 sentences, but they're very 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 long sentences, and it's like 308 pages, something like that. But it's phenomenal, and the artwork is just amazing. And I was an art major first. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts. I also have a Bachelor of Arts in English and a Bachelor of Science in English Education. So, having that combination of literary and artistic mixed together was amazing. And I can't remember the illustrator's name who did the artwork, but phenomenal. Definitely check that one out. And the other one is Long Way Down. Again, it's around 300 pages, I think. And it's a series of poems that tell a story. And It's about a boy whose brother was shot and killed while they were at the park. And the whole story takes place in an elevator, where he's in this elevator with the intention of going and hunting down the guy that shot his brother so he could kill him. And on the way down, various things happen, and I don't want to say any more. I think I probably said too much, but I think that may be the blurb right there. It takes place in an elevator. This kid's brother is killed, and he wants to settle the score. Definitely worth reading. Doesn't take very long. The audiobook was really good, and it was, I don't know, I think listed at 2 hours, but I listened on double speed, so it only took about an hour. Definitely worth it. Read that one. Jason Reynolds, highly recommend. The 2 that I've read were both 5 stars. I'm going to look up more of his work. And I'm glad that, Bookish Realm mentioned these books, because I probably wouldn't have picked them up otherwise. I wouldn't have known about the one otherwise. And really glad I picked it up. Okay, next question. The quote that best sums up my reading life is, "A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies. The man who never reads lives only one." That's a good one. That's George R.R. Martin. He's the Game of Thrones dude. "Reading gives us some place to go when we have to stay where we are." That's a good one, too. That's Mason Cooley. I don't recognize that author's name. How many a man has dated a new era in his life from the reading of a book? Henry David Thoreau. Reading is a basic tool in living of a good life. Mortimer Adler. A book is a dream that you hold in your hand. Neil Gaiman. I'm probably going to pick him just because I absolutely adore him. I think he's fantastic. Great books help you understand, and they help you feel understood. John Green. That's a good one, too. I like some of the older Mental Floss videos when he was hosting. He was fun, and I learned a lot of stuff on those. I've kind of strayed away from reading his books. I've read several of them. I love The Fault in Our Stars. Did not care for Looking for Alaska. Paper Towns I thought was fun, but the movie was less so. The movie didn't play out the way I was picturing it in my head. What else did I read by him? Abundance of Catherines. Didn't do much for me. It was okay. Turtles All the Way Down was okay. And I think that's all I've read from him. Yeah. Read the best books first, or you may not have a chance to read them at all. Henry David Thoreau. This person who created this quiz is obsessed with Thoreau, apparently. A great book should leave you with many experiences and slightly exhausted at the end. You live several lives while reading. Books find their way to you when you need them. Nobody said they didn't say who said that. So I'm between George R.R. Martin, Mason Cooley, and Neil Gaiman. And I'm going to pick Neil Gaiman just because of other reasons. It's time for Bookworm Confessions. Confessions. I have to admit, I have read Pride and Prejudice 200 times. No, I think I've only read it twice. 3 if you count Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I'm a sucker for a beautiful cover. Well, yeah. I have picked up a couple because the covers were so pretty. I would take months to finish each book if it weren't for book club meetings. I don't go to book club. I go through a lot of tissues when I read. I often end up choosing books that make me weepy. Pay way too much attention to what the literary critics think. No, I don't. I will talk about that, too. I have a controversial opinion. Imagine that. I get most of my book recommendations from social media. Maybe. I do get a lot from YouTube, but that I have found people who read similar stuff to what I like, and if they say they liked it, I'm a little more likely to try to get that sooner. But generally, I don't know. I consider Goodreads social media. I mean, you're socializing with the other people, right? Sometimes we'll read a hot title just so I can post about it on Instagram. No, I don't do it for the gram. I get most of my book recommendations from the same source. I'm going to say probably get most of my recommendations from social media, because I'm going to classify Goodreads as social media, and I get a lot from YouTube. You're an escapist. Oh, well. Not a lit major? Okay, so there we go. I'm the escapist. Okay, so what I was going to say about critics. And this includes people on YouTube. And what really drives me nuts about people on YouTube or BookTube, that just drives me nuts right there, is that all these people are like, I heard somebody say they didn't like it, so I don't think I'm going to read it now. You don't know if you're going to like it or not unless you do the reading. Just because John Doe over here that you follow and have similar taste with didn't care for it doesn't mean you're not going to like it. Might be a little less likely to like it, but you might find something in there that they didn't. So don't judge a book. They always say don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a book by another person's opinion. Get your own damn opinions. And the other one that drives me nuts, and I don't want to call out specific people because I know they have reasons, but when you come up with this arbitrary TBR for the month and say, if I don't read this book this month, I'm going to unhaul it because I probably will never read it. Bullshit. I'm calling you out now. Bullshit. You don't know that for sure. Just because you arbitrarily pull a book off your shelf and say, I'm going to read it this month, and then you don't read it this month, doesn't mean that you're never going to want to. It just means that this wasn't the moment to read it. And I understand if you're trying to create space and you're making this arbitrary bullshit rule as a way to create space. Stupid sinuses. But don't be like, well, I didn't read it this month, so that means I'm never going to want to read it. I've got books that have been sitting on my shelves for years that I was interested when I picked it up. I didn't get to it right then because I had a whole stack of other stuff that I was in the middle of and couldn't at the moment. And I kind of lost interest a little bit, but not completely. And I thought, well, maybe I'll get to it eventually, or I might need it for a challenge or any number of reasons. Or I'll pick something up thinking, I don't know, but maybe, so I'll put it on my shelf. I do have a whole box of stuff I'm getting ready to unhaul. I did the unhaul video, and I've since added about, 6 or 8 books. But that's mostly because I've read them and don't want to keep them. At least 2 of them I'm going to try to donate to the library because I know they don't have them. That's why I bought them. And then the rest of them, some of them are books I had duplicate copies of. Like one of them, I had 3 copies of it. I still have one on my shelf because I haven't read it yet. But I'm, unhauling the other 2 extra copies because I don't need 3 copies of the same book. It's one thing if you're collecting that particular title for whatever reason, you want all the different variations. I'm not doing that. I am trying to, if I'm keeping books, I'm trying to only keep 1 copy. I have books in bins and boxes stashed all over the house and out in storage. So I'm finally starting to put some on the shelves. I'm taking the crap off the shelves and putting books on. So that's a step in the right direction. I don't know what to do with all the stuff that was already there. But at some point I'm going to actually move things around to the point where I can empty the one closet, and then I can start putting stuff away in there. Give me a little more space. I mean, my dad's been gone almost 2 years, and I haven't touched his closet yet. Just because, I don't want to. Anyway. It drives me nuts when people say things like that. Well, if I don't read it this month, I'm never going to read it. And then lo and behold, you see them hauling that book again 6 months, 12 months later, because they got rid of it when they didn't read it right that minute. And then they came up with a reason they wanted to read it. Oh, well, I need it for this challenge I'm doing, or I'm doing a read along with so-and-so and I need that book back. Well, now, after you've donated it to somebody or given it away or sold it for way less than what it's worth, now you're going out and buying it again? You're wasting money. I don't know. Just because you arbitrarily decided that if you don't read this stack of books in this particular order, they're gone. That's why I'm a mood reader. And I like having a big variety of things on my shelf so that when I decide I want to read something, it's there. I'm looking at one that I bought at the dollar store, and I haven't decided if I'm going to pick it up yet or not. It's by Amy Tan. And what I've read from her before I liked, but I think this is more memoirish rather than novel. So I'm just like, I don't know. Do I want to read that? Do I want to read something else? Meanwhile, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13 or 14 books out from the library that I need to read. And a whole stack of them that I've got on request. But yeah. That's kind of... That's a thing, kind of a controversial opinion, I guess, because there's a lot of people that are just like what I said, if I don't read it this month, I'm going to get rid of it because I'll never read it. Yeah, sure, whatever. You tell yourself that. You're going to end up with that book again. Oh, and the so-and-so didn't like it, so I'm not going to read it now. Why are you giving that person so much power over your reading choices? Choose what you want to read, because you might still like it. Just because, who can I pick on? We'll pick on Kayla from Books and Lala, because she recommends a lot of stuff that I read. And sometimes I love it, and sometimes not so much. If she loves it, there's a good chance I'm going to like it. There's also a good chance I'm going to be like, what the hell is this? And want to DNF it. So you don't know until you actually pick the book up and read it yourself. I'm just using her as an example because she does a lot of mysteries and thrillers. And I like to read mysteries and thrillers. And I like to get her opinion. And sometimes I'll see the same book mentioned on 2 or 3 other people. And everybody's got a different opinion or a different reason why they liked it or a different reason why they didn't like it. Whatever. There are some things that drive her crazy that I'm like, hey, cool, I like that. Some things that she absolutely loves, I'm going, no, not so sure I like that. I haven't enjoyed that yet. But you never know until you pick the book up and read it for yourself. So don't limit yourself because somebody you've never even met said that they didn't like something. That's crazy. Crazy. Anyway, I'm going to end this here, I think. We were at almost 40 minutes. I wasn't planning on taking this long, and I've got at least one more video to film tonight. Because I've got boxes and packages and all kinds of goodies. some things that I ordered. It's pretty much everything I ordered. One's an ARC I know that was being sent and it got here. One's not even books, it's something else that I redeemed points on a website and got. Anyway. Oh, did I even read the thing about what an escapist is? You've probably already read it by now, because I've been blabbering about everything else. If you're an escapist, you believe that above all, reading is supposed to be fun. Yes, I totally believe that. You read because you enjoy it. Yes, but also because it helps you relax, especially when your life feels crazy. You especially appreciate a book that feels impossible to put down. Yeah, that sounds like me. Anyway, I'm going to leave you on that note. I know one of the other possibilities is the English major, or as we're calling it on the challenge, literature major, because Goodreads is worldwide and it may not necessarily be an English speaking person that lands on that particular thing, so we're saying literature major. I don't know what the other choices are. I think there's like 9 different options that you could end up with, so whatever. Escapist is good. It works for me. If it would have come up with English major, that would have been spot on because, I do have my English degree. Anyway, I think I'm going to cut it off here. Remember to do all the YouTube things, comment, like, share, subscribe. Ring the bell icon if you want to be notified of future uploads, blah, 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 blah. Assuming that your subscriptions actually show up in your feed and the things you ring bell for actually show up in your feed, because they don't always. YouTube does its own thing. And I find it kind of annoying because I'll forget about people if they don't upload constantly. I'll forget that they're on my subscriptions, and then like 6 months later they'll pop up randomly. They'll be like, oh, yeah, I forgot about them. And then I have to go and hunt their stuff because it's not coming up on my feed. Crazy. And then I'll be watching a bunch of their stuff and they'll just disappear again. And like I like books with Emily Fox. I like watching her videos. I don't necessarily read the same kinds of things that she does because she reads a lot of sci-fi and fantasy, which I don't. She also reads a lot of nonfiction, and I kind of read some nonfiction, but we're not generally reading the same kinds of nonfiction. Excuse me. I'm trying not to do that on camera, but, kind of couldn't help it. But she does read a few mysteries and thrillers, and I kind of like to hear what her take is on that. She's actually the one that got me to read Becky Chambers, which is sci-fi. It's the Wayfarers series. Absolutely love it. And she mentioned it so many times. Like, okay, I will pick it up and see. I'll read the first one. I read the first one, absolutely loved it, and just started grabbing them up every time I see her name on a book. I'm picking it up. I'm ready for the second Monk and Robot. Is that the name of the series? The first one was a Psalm for the Wild Built. I can't remember the name of the second one, but it's either just come out or about to come out. So I'm ready to get my hands on it. Love the Wayfarers series. Absolutely love it. Is it 4 books? Starts with A Long Way to the Small Angry Planet. And fantastic. Highly recommend if you like short sci-fi. It's got a little bit of a queer... There's always a queer character or a group of queer characters involved. But it's not like banging you over the head with it necessarily. So if you enjoy queer characters, there are some. If you don't want a strong queer storyline, you're generally pretty safe. They're just characters. They're just people or creatures, aliens, robots, ships. Excuse me. Not necessarily humans. But yeah, definitely, because of Emily Fox, I started reading those. because I finally was like, okay, you mentioned these enough times. I'm curious enough to pick up the first one. Lo and behold, I've read everything I can find at this point. Or everything I'm aware of at this point. So, you know how it is. But she disappeared off my feed for a really long time. And then suddenly, boom, she was back, and I had her on my feed for probably a month and a half. And now she's disappeared again. I don't know if she's not putting stuff out, but she's pretty consistent at putting out content. Or if it's just YouTube being YouTube and they decided I don't need to watch her right now. I don't know. I don't understand their algorithm, how it decides what to put on your feed. Because I'll get stuff, and I'm going, why is this on my feed? I have no interest in this whatsoever. But for whatever reason, I'm getting that. I like to watch the Cinema Snob. I like his little snarky comments. And he always does these weird off-the-wall movies I either haven't heard of, or they're like the exploitation movies that I probably wouldn't normally watch on my own, but I'll see what he has to say about them because it might be something interesting, and if it might give me something new to look for. Was watching him several videos a night, watching a lot of his backlist videos. Suddenly, he disappeared off my feed. And I'm like, wait a minute. Because I was watching his Cinema Snob stuff, I was watching his movie reviews, I was watching the Brad Tries videos where he's like testing different foods, kind of like what I do on occasion, doing taste tests of things. So I'm watching hours and hours and hours of him, and suddenly he's not on my feed anymore. Where did he go? Because I know he's uploading, if not daily, several times a week. Where did he go? Why am I not getting this stuff on my feed? So the whole ringing the bell, I don't know how much it actually does help, but you might have a better shot at getting the videos you want. I don't know. I don't know. Right now I'm looking at my screen on my TV, and I've got a British game show that I watch religiously. I've got Phantom Strider talking about junk food and soda failures. I've got Mr. Ballin talking about true crime stuff. I've got Big Fat Quiz, which is another British kind of game show thing. Cinema Snob actually is showing up today, so I don't know. And some other true crime thing. But, you know, with the true crime, I watched one true crime video, and suddenly that's all that was on my feed. Everything else I wanted to watch, gone. So, I don't know, algorithm, I guess, thinks that that's all I want. Okay, I like documentaries about serial killers, whatever, but whatever. Okay, let me do the wrap up again. Because I have managed to talk almost another 10 minutes. So I'm going to say goodbye. Remember to do all the YouTube things. Comment, like, share, subscribe, ring the bell icon if you want to be notified of future uploads, whenever they may be. And I will see you, or you can see me, seeing somebody in the next video. Bye. If it will let me turn this off. Come on. Off.